Welcome to my messy studio, everyone. My name is Mark, and I'm an artist and an art professor. And in this video, I'd like to share a brief excerpt with you of my online workshop called Drawing Detail and Texture in Pen and Ink, which I'll be reprising this weekend, Sunday, February 2nd, from 9 a.m. to 12 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. This follow-up to my Fundamentals of Crosshatching workshop adds an extra layer of complexity by dealing with objects with complex surfaces and textures. Texture is an especially challenging thing to do in pen and ink because this is a medium where things have to be suggested rather than defined. What I mean by this is that while some mediums allow you to simply record what you see, in pen and ink, you can only approach the actual appearance of things through carefully placed strokes that evoke a sense of texture in the viewer's imagination. This workshop will give you the skills you need to create convincing textures and other surfaces in pen and ink, and will feature charts, helpful diagrams, old master examples, and a full-length still life demonstration, and the option to get your questions answered and have me give you feedback on your work. Please enjoy this excerpt from my workshop, and if you're interested, visit my website to sign up. You might have a situation where, for whatever reason, you have texture in the center of the object that's small, and then at the side of the object, it somehow gets heavier this way, right, larger, right? Or again, if you have some kind of landscape, you have, like really fine grass towards the foreground, and then strong bushes with some kind of strong texture towards the background. In these kind of situations, this is where we have to start deviating from what we're actually seeing, because it might read in a photograph, it might be convincing in the actual reality of the situation, but if we draw it that way, it's going to feel incorrect. And unfortunately, we're not always going to have the possibility of standing next to our image and explaining, no, I actually saw it this way. No, the texture here was, no. Fortunately, the image has to speak for itself, which requires lying. So in a situation where you have weaker texture, like no texture at all, towards the front of the object and stronger texture towards the sides, we have to switch it. We can't draw it that way. It's going to be very, very difficult to create a convincingly three-dimensional image from this reference. And look, theoretically, when you're choosing references, you don't want to choose references that you have to manipulate tremendously to get a convincing image out of. So, if I'm choosing some kind of landscape reference, I'm going to avoid situations where I have to lie to the point where I have to change the image almost entirely. Right? I'm going to choose a reference where the texture in the foreground is stronger and we have some kind of strong suggestion of depth. But if not, if I'm stuck with the reference, right, I need to do some kind of commission piece where the client is forcing me to work with this horrible reference. Right? I'm going to switch it up. I'm going to make the texture in the foreground, in front of the object, stronger, and then towards the sides, I'm going to weaken it, diminish it. Right? In this case, right, I'm going to find opportunities to make the texture here stronger, and then maybe decrease the sizes of the bushes, right, make them weaker somehow, right, diminish them. Right, this is the case where we have to start deviating from the actual reference material, right? So rule number one, rule number two, always, when applying texture, lie, exaggerate, right? Make sure the texture towards the front of the object is stronger, towards the sides, weaker. And again, I'm simplifying here. Texture is strongest here, and then maybe towards the top, it almost disappears. And as I'm going back in space, I'm introducing more and more atmosphere. So a good way of thinking about it, texture is in terms of density. Right? The texture in things that are closer needs to be more dense. As you move farther away, you need to introduce more and more atmosphere, more and more of the paper into the texture, to send that texture back in space. Which actually leads me to another principle. At certain depths, the texture can completely vanish into the atmosphere. So for example, let's say we have grass
So we have strong grass texture towards the foreground, right? And then it starts diminishing, diminishing, and we're introducing more and more atmosphere. At some point, it can turn into dots, and at some point, it just, boom, is no longer there at all. That gives the impression of really strong depth. And this applies to everything. Sometimes you'll see a wall where, okay, let's say you have some kind of rocks, right? So the rocks here, stronger, they get weaker, again, more atmosphere, more atmosphere, more atmosphere, disappears. As long as that disappearance is gradual, that creates a suggestion of tremendous depth in the drawing. I noticed somebody in the chat. Let's see. How do you reconcile value and texture? Excellent question. We're going to be dealing with that. Absolutely. Yeah, we're going to cover, that's the next set of rules once we deal with just texture by itself. It's an excellent question. Coming up next. So it might not happen here, but it could, right? So maybe the texture here, so long as I've suggested it in the closer parts, right? Maybe the texture here almost becomes entirely smooth, right? Again, the diminishment needs to be gradual enough so that it creates a suggestion. Emil, please close the door. Sorry, my son. Okay, let's deal with the texture here. So the texture here, I'm going to exaggerate a little bit, in part because it's close to us. And in part because it's so small here that it might get lost. Okay, so I was saying here we have the problem of the texture being larger than the texture here, just from the angle at which we're seeing it. And also it's not wrapping around effectively. So we need to curve the lines here a little more. So there's a little bit more wraparound. And then again, keep in mind, texture is always strongest at the edge of the shadow right here. And in this case, it's getting almost entirely lost in the shadow. So when it comes to here, I might use my off parallel hatching to go really dark, really fast. This way. And so this entire area. So we have cast shadow here, texture, texture, texture. And then here, I might use my off parallel hatch. Anytime I need to go dark, dark and quiet, that off parallel hatching is an excellent way to go. And then in the lighter parts, the texture should be increasingly softer. So here, you can see that the texture almost gets bleached out. It's still there. Don't forget the texture needs to be form following. So towards the center of the object, you also need to make it a little bit darker. So on and so forth. So I have one more thing to show you. So I'm going to jump to one last thing, which is the most important rule. This is my rule number 8. And I think this is, besides rule number 1, I think actually rule number 8 is even more important. When you're dealing with the entire composition, we have lots of elements, not just a single object. the requirements of the composition always are more important than the requirements of texture.